Am I a monster? The words slipped out so quietly they almost disappeared into the echo of that empty art room. 17-year-old Eliza Quinn sat hunched over her sketch pad, a smudge of charcoal cutting down her cheek like a tear. Across the room, a mop squeaked to a stop. Caleb Ward, the night janitor, stood frozen. He'd been watching this girl for weeks from the sidelines, this ghost who lingered long after the other students had gone home, sleeves tugged down to hide the gleaming prosthetic arms she carried like a curse. He'd seen the way kids whispered, the way she folded in on herself like she didn't deserve air, and he couldn't help it. He leaned his mop against the sink, stepped forward, and said, his voice rough from disuse, "No, sweetheart, you're not a monster. Monsters don't make beauty like that." Eliza's head snapped up, her gray eyes wide. For a fragile moment, her breath shook, and something like relief flickered across her face. But then the spell shattered. "What's going on here?" The voice cut like glass. A woman in a tailored suit stood at the doorway. Margot Quinn, CEO of Quinn Dynamics, the biotech empire behind those very arms. Her gaze locked onto Caleb like a predator spotting prey. "Step away from my daughter," she snapped. Eliza flinched, clutching her arms tight against her chest. Caleb raised his palms, trying to explain. "She was upset, ma'am. You're the janitor." Margot's laugh was sharp, cruel. "Mop the floors. Don't psychoanalyze my child. If I see you near her again, I'll make sure you never work in this city." The words landed like a hammer. Caleb nodded once, gathered his mop, and left without a fight. Not because he agreed, because he couldn't afford otherwise. His daughter's life depended on it. Hours later, the smell of disinfectant filled his lungs at St. Mary's Hospital. His little girl Lily lay dwarfed by the machines keeping her alive. 7 years old, her body failing piece by piece. Caleb sat beside her, brushing a strand of blonde hair off her clammy forehead. "Hey, Firefly," he whispered. "Did you dream of galaxies tonight?" It was their ritual. He painted worlds with words so she could escape these white walls. But tonight, all he saw was that broken-hearted girl with the metal arms and the mother who saw everything except her pain. Then came the news that gutted him. Dr. Ramirez pulled him into the hall, eyes heavy. "The meds aren't working anymore. There's one last option, an experimental infusion. It could reset her immune system." She hesitated. "But Caleb, the first round costs $250,000. Insurance won't touch it. $250,000. For him, it may as well have been $1 billion. He went home that night, lay on his mattress, staring at the ceiling. That number burned into the dark like fire. The next day at Crestwood Academy, he tried to keep his head down. Margot Quinn's threat rang in his ears. One wrong move, and his daughter's last hope would vanish with his paycheck. But when he looked out the window and saw Eliza on the quad shoulders, hunched as a pack of rich girls laughed and pointed, something in him snapped. She pulled her sleeves lower over her chrome hands, shrinking. He gripped the squeegee so hard his knuckles blanched. That night, long after the halls emptied, he slipped into the art room. Her sketchbook still lay open, an unfinished bird with impossible wings. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his last gift from another life, a box of professional charcoal pencils. He set them by her pad. No note, no signature, just an offering. The next evening, he found a new drawing waiting. Not a bird, not a rose. A single feather floating in white space. Delicate, perfect, as if one breath could send it flying. His throat tightened. It wasn't a thank you. It was a message. "I'm still here." Their secret conversation grew. He left a book on Frida Kahlo, open to a portrait painted from her hospital bed. Days later, Eliza answered with a sketch of a girl with steel arms holding a blooming rose. He understood her without a word. But the world outside that room was merciless. Paige Wallace, daughter of a Quinn board member, made sure of that. One afternoon, Eliza burst from the locker room, pale and trembling. Caleb slipped in after. On the floor, her sketchbook lay open. Someone had slashed a crude word across her drawing in red lipstick. Freak. He wanted to scream, to smash through every entitled smirk in that school. But he was just the janitor. He picked up the ruined book, heart burning, and carried it out. And then came the final straw. Late one night, he found her second sketchbook, the one with their feather ripped apart. Pages torn, birds smeared into nothing. On the last sheet, a stick figure with robot arms labeled in red, "Monster. Go Rust." Caleb stared at it, hands shaking. This wasn't bullying. It was soul murder. His daughter's words echoed in his head. "We just have to fight harder, Daddy." The next morning, he walked into the lion's den. The glass tower of Quinn Dynamics rose into the clouds, polished and untouchable. He rode the elevator to the top floor, the ruined sketchbook heavy in his backpack. Margot Quinn stood by her window city, sprawling beneath her like a kingdom. She didn't even turn. 5 minutes, Mr. Ward. Make it count." Caleb stepped forward, voice steady. "Before I was a janitor, my name was Dr. Caleb Ward. I spent a decade as a child art therapist." He pulled the sketchbook from his bag and laid it on her glass desk. "This is what your daughter's living through." Margot flipped the pages with irritation until she reached the last one. The red stick figure. The word, "monster." Her hand trembled. For the first time, her mask cracked. She saw not grades, not performance reports, but her child's soul bleeding out on paper. Before either could speak, Caleb's phone buzzed. He saw the caller ID, St. Mary's Hospital. His stomach dropped. "Mr. Ward." Dr. Ramirez's voice was frantic. "Lily's crashing. You need to come now." He didn't wait. He grabbed his bag, bolted past the assistant, tore down the marble hall. Behind him, Margot stood frozen, the sketchbook still open, her world collapsing. At the hospital, chaos swarmed Lily's room. Machines screamed, doctors fought to bring her back. Caleb hit the wall, sobbing powerless, watching the monitors flatline. Then a beep. Another. Her heart stumbled back. They saved her, but Dr. Ramirez's face was grave. Her heart is failing. The treatment isn't optional anymore. It's now or never. Meanwhile, Margot sat alone in her office, the sketchbook burning her conscience. For years, she had rebuilt her daughter's body, but blinded herself to her spirit. Now she finally saw. And guilt, sharp and alien, drove her like a blade. She called her assistant. "Find everything on Caleb Ward. His daughter's name is Lily. I want her full medical history on my desk in an hour." When Eliza arrived later that day, defensive and weary, she froze at the sight of her destroyed drawings spread across the desk. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "He brought it to me," Margot admitted, voice shaking. For the first time in years, she wrapped her arms around her daughter and whispered, "I'm so sorry." And then she made the call that changed everything. Funds wired. Medicine rushed from a private lab. 2 hours later, Caleb stood by Lily's bed as the first infusion dripped into her veins, liquid hope glowing faintly under the lights. He held her hand, tears sliding down his cheeks. "Rest now, Firefly. Help is here." Across the glass, Margot and Eliza watched in silence. Eliza whispered, "Thank you, Mr. Ward. You never made me feel like a monster." Caleb took her chrome hand in his rough one, "Because you never were." Months passed. Lily's cheeks flushed pink again, her laughter filling rooms that had known only silence. And Caleb, no longer a ghost in coveralls, stood at the podium of a brand new therapy center funded by Quinn Dynamics. Above the door, silver letters gleamed. The Lily Ward Center for Pediatric Art Therapy. Eliza spoke first, strong and steady. "Art isn't just beauty. It's a safe place for pain. This man gave me that map, and he showed me monsters can't draw." The crowd applauded as Caleb stepped up. He looked at his daughter beaming in the front row, then at Eliza and Margot, two people who had once been enemies, but were now bound to him by a thread stronger than steel. "6 months ago, I thought I knew what monsters looked like," he said softly. "But I was wrong. Monsters are just stories we tell ourselves. The real world. It's made of people, people who choose to see each other, to fight for each other, and sometimes to save each other." Later that evening, Caleb and Margot stood in the new studio, watching Eliza guide Lily's hand across a page, showing her how to blend colors into something new. A girl once shamed for her arms, teaching a girl once dying in a hospital bed. A perfect circle of healing. Margot turned to him, her voice unsteady. "Thank you, Caleb." He smiled through tears. No, thank you. You saved her too. And that's where the story leaves us, in the golden light of a new beginning, where broken families forged something whole. But tell me, this was Margot's transformation redemption, or just power used differently? Do you believe people that blind can truly change? Or was it only guilt that moved her? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Where are you watching from today? And don't forget to subscribe. We've got more stories every week to remind us that sometimes the people you overlook are the ones who change your world forever.